His knees hit the marble first. Not a stumble, not an accident, a collapse. August's palms pressed flat against the floor, fingers spread wide like he was trying to hold the earth still. His voice cracked somewhere between a whisper and a plea, words tumbling out in fragments I couldn't catch from where I stood. But I didn't need to hear them. Everyone else in that lobby already had. Security froze near the elevators. Two assistants pretended to study their phones. A woman with a briefcase stopped mid-step, her heels silent on the stone. They all knew what this was. What'd he become? I stood above him, still as glass. Not because I'd rehearsed this moment, though God knows I'd imagined it. I stood still because motion felt like mercy, and I had none left to give. He looked up. His eyes were red, wet, desperate. The same eyes that once made me feel seen. The same mouth that had said her name instead of mine in a moment that should have been ours. "Please," he said. "Louder now. Just talk to me. Just please." I didn't blink. Didn't breathe differently. My silence wasn't cruelty. It was conclusion. Have you ever watched someone beg for something they threw away? It's strange how smallness looks on people who used to take up so much space. The assistant near the front desk shifted her weight. Uncomfortable. Witnessing. Recording this in her memory to tell someone later over wine. August didn't care. Or maybe he did. And that's why his voice climbed higher, more frantic, like volume could break through where words had failed. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. But here's what nobody in that room knew yet. Not the security guard. Not the assistants. Not even August, whose tears were now falling on a marble that cost more per square foot than his first car. They didn't know why I was really there. They didn't know what I'd built while he thought I was broken. And they definitely didn't know about the 3 years that had already passed. The countdown that had ticked silently in the background of his freedom. The clause that matured exactly 48 hours ago. August thought this moment was about him finally realizing what he'd lost. He was wrong. This moment was about me answering a question I'd carried for 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. The question that kept me sharp when grief tried to dull me. The question that funded every decision, every silent night, every calculated move. Could the woman he left on the floor rise high enough that he'd, one day, find himself exactly where he put her? His voice broke again. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I'll do anything. I looked at him then. Really looked. Let him see that I heard him. Let him hope for just a second that mercy was coming. And before I answer him, you need to see the first crack. Have you ever stayed silent when someone expected you to break? Drop a comment below. The bookstore smelled like old paper and possibility. August found me in the poetry section, which should have been my first warning. Men who seek you out between Neruda and Plath either want to save you or study you. I didn't know which one he was yet. Do you actually read those? He asked. Or just like how they look? I glanced up. Dark eyes. Confident smile. The kind of man who'd never been told no in a way that stuck. I read them. I said, do you actually care? Or just like how curiosity sounds? He laughed. Really laughed. Bought me coffee. Asked questions that didn't feel like interviews. We talked about display lives, the versions of ourselves we show versus the ones we hide. He listened like my words mattered. Like I mattered. That was the hook, wasn't it? Being seen by someone who seemed worth being seen by. We walked for 3 hours that first night. Brooklyn streets turning purple with dusk. He told me about his business, his plans, his hunger for something bigger. I told him about my work, my dreams, the parts of myself I'd kept small to fit into rooms that didn't deserve me. You're different, he said at my door. Didn't try to kiss me. Just held my gaze like he was memorizing something. Most people perform. You just are. Intimacy built slowly between us. Not in beds, though that would come. In words first. In midnight calls where we'd confess fears we'd never said aloud. In the way he'd text me poetry lines at 2 a.m. like he'd found pieces of my soul in someone else's words. I fell in love with his mind before his mouth. Maybe that's why it cut deeper later. You can recover from losing someone's body. Losing their understanding, though, that's a different kind of ghost. 3 months in, he met my parents. 6 months in, I had a drawer at his place. 8 months in, he whispered future into my hair while we watched the city lights from his apartment. "You're my person," he said. "The one I didn't know I was looking for." I believed him. God, I believed every word. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you handed them the knife before you saw the target on your back? We built something I thought was permanent. A foundation of shared jokes and shared silence. The kind of comfort where you don't need to fill every space with sound. But here's what I missed while I was falling. Every warmth contains its future cold. What's the biggest lie someone ever made you believe? Share below. August loved that I seemed small. Not physically, though I barely reached his shoulder. Small in appetite. In need. In the space I took up in the world. "You're so low maintenance," he'd say, like it was a compliment. Like requiring less made me worth more. What he didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I'd already built something. Not empire big, not yet, but foundation solid. Investments my grandmother left me that I'd grown quietly. A safety net I never mentioned because I didn't need to prove anything. I watched him think he was my answer, my rescue, my elevation, and I let him think it. Maybe that was my first mistake, letting someone believe they held all the power. They start to think they own it, that you'd collapse without them holding you up. Coffee dates turned into routines. Sunday mornings, Thursday evenings. His apartment became hours in the way that happens without announcement. Toothbrush, then clothes, then half the closet and all of my trust. "I love how easy you are," he said one morning, kissing my shoulder. "No drama, no demands, just you. Easy." That word should have felt like acid. But I was in love, and love makes you mishear warnings as compliments. His business grew. Minas tailled quiet deliberately invisible. I worked remotely, managed portfolios he never asked about, built wealth he assumed I didn't have. Why would I correct him? I thought we were building together, not keeping score. Then came the party. His company's anniversary. Open bar and congratulations and investors in expensive suits. I wore blue, his favorite color on me. Stood beside him like I belonged there because I thought I did. That's when I heard it. August talking to his partner near the bar, voice low, but not low enough. "She thinks I'm the answer," he said. Laughed. "It's kind of sweet, actually. How much she needs this to work." His partner glanced my way. Uncomfortable. "Man, that's..." "What?" "True. She's great, don't get me wrong. But she's not exactly built for the life I'm heading toward. You know." I turned away before he could see me. Before anyone could see what those words did to my face. Have you ever heard yourself discussed like you were a phase? A chapter someone was already closing while you were still writing your ending into theirs? I didn't confront him that night. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just started remembering who I was before I tried to be easy. And still, I didn't know what was coming. When did you realize someone saw you differently than you saw yourself? Drop it below. The envelope came on a Tuesday. Plain. White. The kind you'd ignore if you didn't know what it meant. But I knew. I've been waiting for it for 6 years. Since my grandmother died and left instructions that read more like prophecy than paperwork. Open this when you understand the difference between being chosen and choosing yourself. I understood now. Inside was a single document. A trust that had been growing, compounding, building in silence. Not millions, but enough. Enough to walk away from anything. Enough to start over. Enough to prove that I'd never needed saving at all. August found me at the kitchen table, paperwork spread like evidence. "What's all this?" he asked casual, still thinking he knew all my corners. "Something I inherited." He glanced at the numbers. His face changed, tightened. When did you get this?" 6 years ago. It just matured. Silence. The kind that cuts deeper than questions. "So you've had money this whole time?" His voice climbed. "And you just what? Pretended you didn't? Let me pay for everything? Play the struggling artist?" "I never pretended anything. You assumed. Because you let me." He was pacing now, angry in the way people get when they realize the story they told themselves was fiction. "I thought I was helping you. Building something with you." "You were," I said quietly. "I just didn't need you to save me. I needed you to stay." His jaw worked. Eyes everywhere but on mine. That's when I saw it. The thing I'd been too hopeful to notice before. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a project. Someone to fix, to elevate, to point at, and say, "See what I built?" A woman with her own foundation was a threat, not a teammate. This changes things, he finally said. It shouldn't, but it does. I stood, walked to where he'd frozen near the window, close enough to touch, but miles past reaching. Abandoned by him, I whispered, more to myself than him, elevated by myself. He didn't hear me. Or maybe he did, and that's what scared him most. 3 days later came the sentence that ended everything. 5 words delivered without rage, without volume, without anything except cold certainty. And then one sentence ended the life we thought we were building. Have you ever outgrown someone who thought they were raising you? Tell us your story. I want freedom, not diapers. 5 words. Flat. Final. Delivered across my kitchen table like he was returning a sweater that didn't fit. I didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't ask what he meant because I already knew. He'd met someone new, someone who matched his rising trajectory better, someone without history or need or the audacity to have her own money, someone who made him feel big again. That's it, I asked, voice steady, hands folded. That's all you've got. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Barely. I just think we want different things now. I'm not ready to settle down. You're great, but don't. I stood. Don't do the you're great, but speech. Just go. He went, took his toothbrush and his charger and the last year of my life like it was nothing. Like we were nothing. The door closed so quietly I barely heard it over my heartbeat. The world assumed I was ruined. His friends texted condolences that felt like pity. My coworkers asked if I was okay with voices that said they knew I wasn't. Everyone expected tears, breakdowns, public grief. I gave them silence instead. Because here's what they didn't know. Heartbreak is just another kind of clarity. And clarity, when you're angry enough, becomes fuel. August walked away, thinking he'd escaped before I became an obligation. Before I wanted things like forever and promises and the future he'd whispered about when it was convenient. He thought he'd left at the perfect time. Free, unattached, ready for whatever came next. But what the world didn't know, what August couldn't have known because he'd stopped asking questions months ago, was that he'd already waited too long. The countdown had started years before he knew my name. And the clock? It didn't stop just because he did. I stood in my empty apartment, looked at the space where his things used to be, and I smiled. Not because I was fine. I wasn't. But because pain is temporary and revenge is patient. He wanted freedom. I'd give him something better. Distance so vast he'd spend the rest of his life trying to close it. But what the world didn't know was that he left too late. What would you do if someone threw away your future for theirs? Comment bilo? Nobody sends flowers to a woman they think is already dead. That's what I became after August left. Socially dead. Professionally invisible. The girl who got left, who everyone assumed was crying into wine glasses and calling him drunk at 3 a.m. Let them think it. Let the whole city think I'd collapsed. Because while they whisper my name with pity, I was counting 3 years until the clause matured. 3 years until the secondary trust my grandmother left activated. The one with conditions. The one that required proof of independent growth, documented decisions, strategic positioning. She'd known something I was just learning. Survival isn't the goal. Irrelevance to those who hurt you is. I stopped defending myself. Stopped explaining. When mutual friends asked what happened, I said, he wanted something else. Let them fill in the blanks. Let August's version become the only version that mattered. Silence became my sharpest weapon. Days blurred into strategy. I worked from home, avoided places we used to go, let the world forget I existed outside of being his ex. The loneliest season of my life was also the most clarifying. I wasn't building for an audience. I was building for 1,095 days from now. My grandmother's lawyer called 6 months after the breakup. You're eligible to access the first phase, he said. The early release clause. If you can show, I can show it. Portfolio diversification. 3 consulting contracts under a business name he'd never think to search. An LLC registered in Delaware. Property investments in emerging markets. Nothing flashy. Nothing loud. Everything strategic. Impressive, the lawyer said, reviewing my documents. Most people in your position would have fallen apart. I finished. That's what he's counting on. The lawyer smiled. Thin. Knowing. 3 years is a long time to stay focused. 3 years is nothing when you know the ending. I hung up and looked at my calendar. Drew a red circle around a date so far away it felt fictional. Wrote underneath it, the day his voice becomes background noise. August got engaged 4 months after leaving me. Posted it everywhere. Her smile, his arm around her waist. Comments flooding in with congratulations and heart emojis. I didn't react, didn't like, didn't check his page again. Because countdown clocks don't stop for other people's happiness. Have you ever disappeared on purpose just to rebuild in private? That's power nobody talks about. I became a ghost. And ghosts don't need witnesses to haunt the living. And the countdown had already started. When did you learn that silence speaks louder than defense? Share your experience below. While August celebrated his engagement, I bought my first company. Small, a struggling marketing firm with good bones and terrible management. The kind of acquisition nobody notices because it's not flashy enough for press releases. I didn't want flash. I wanted foundation. Renamed it, restructured it, turned profit in 8 months. Sold it for triple what I paid. Used those returns to buy 2 more. Then 4. Each one carefully chosen, quietly transformed, strategically positioned. Shell companies became my signature. LLCs with names that meant nothing to anyone but me. Partnerships with mentors August had never bothered to introduce me to because he thought I didn't need them. Turns out I needed them more than I needed him. You're building an empire, one of my advisors said during a quarterly review. She was older, sharper, the kind of woman who'd survive her own wars. Does he know? No. Good. Let him find out with everyone else. I worked 16-hour days. Not because I had to, but because sleep felt like giving him space in my head. Every decision was surgical. Every move calculated. I wasn't just building wealth. I was building distance. The kind of distance that turns someone's memory into a footnote. August's company grew too. I watched from afar, tracking his success like you'd track weather patterns. Not because I cared, but because I needed to know the landscape. Where he stood so I'd know how high to climb. His engagement ended 10 months in. Quietly. No unknown cement. Just an absence of her face in his photos. I didn't ask why. Didn't care. His personal life was noise. 2 years in, I had 7 companies. Partnerships in 3 cities. A reputation in circles he'd never reach because he'd burned bridges I'd quietly rebuilt behind him. 67 days left on the countdown when I got the call. Your trust has fully matured, the lawyer said. All conditions met. Assets released. Congratulations. I looked at my calendar. The red circle, so close now I could taste it. Does the release trigger any public filings? It does. 3 business days. Your name will appear on several documents. Ownership records. Partnership agreements. Board positions. Perfect. August still thought I'd disappeared. Still thought I was somewhere licking wounds he'd given me. He had no idea I'd been building the ladder that would let me look down at him from heights he'd never reach. And 67 days left, he still thought I was gone. Have you ever built something in secret just to prove someone wrong? Tell us about it. The article dropped on a Wednesday. Not planned. A tech journal covering emerging investors in the consulting space. My name appeared in paragraph 6. Just a mention. Small, but attached to numbers that weren't small at all. August's text came 4 hours later. Is this you? I didn't respond. By Friday, 3 more articles. By Monday, a profile in a business magazine. Not because I'd sought it, but because numbers talk and journalists listen. How the quiet investor built a 7-figure portfolio in 3 years. They use an old photo. Me smiling at some conference back when I still believed I needed permission to take up space. The caption underneath felt like vindication. She's been here the whole time. We just weren't paying attention. August called. I declined. He called again. Declined again. Silence, remember? My sharpest weapon. His email started next. Can we talk? Then, I had no idea you were doing all this. Then, I'm proud of you. Really, proud. Like he'd earned the right to have feelings about my success. I blocked his number. Not out of anger anymore. Out of completion. You don't keep doors open to rooms you've already left. The press loved the story. Woman gets left, woman builds empire, woman proves she never needed saving. They made it romantic, empowering, a redemption arc. They got it wrong. This wasn't redemption. I just been underground, planting seeds in soil he didn't know existed. His business partner reached out next. Careful, professional. August mentioned you two used to date. Small world. We'd love to discuss potential partnerships. I almost laughed. Almost. Send me a proposal, I said. I'll review it like I review everything else. On merit. Translation. Your connection to him means nothing here. August showed up at my office building 3 weeks after the first article. I watched from the 14th floor as he paced outside, checking his phone, looking up at windows like he could sense which one was mine. Security called. There's someone here asking for you. Tell him I'm unavailable. He says it's important. Tell him everything important has already been said. He waited 2 hours, then left. That was silence number 2, and it cut deeper than the first because now he knew I wasn't hiding. I was just done. The world that once pitted me now interviewed me. Asked how I did it. What my secret was. I never mentioned him. Not once. Erased him from my narrative like he'd tried to erase me from his future. Forgotten. Replaced. Rendered irrelevant by my own success. And I still wasn't done. Has someone ever tried to come back after you outgrew them? What did you do? August's company started struggling 6 months after my name went public. Not because of me. I didn't sabotage anything. Didn't need to. Turns out, when you build your reputation on confidence instead of competence, cracks show eventually. Clients left. Investors pulled back. Doors that used to open for him started closing. And I heard about all of it because we now ran in the same circles, except I was rising and he was relearning gravity. We ended up at the same conference in March. Industry Summit. Unavoidable. I wore white. Sat front row. Gave a keynote about sustainable growth and long-term vision. Never looked at him once, though I felt his eyes from the back of the room. Afterwards, he tried to approach. Moved through the crowd like he was swimming upstream. I saw him coming, timed my exit perfectly, disappeared into a conversation with someone who actually mattered. He tried again at the hotel bar that night. Sent a drink to my table. The waiter delivered it with a note. Can we please just talk? I sent it back untouched. That was silence number 3. People noticed. Started talking. Did you see that? Whispers behind hands. Social proof that I'd moved beyond him. That his attempts to reconnect were performance art nobody asked for. My office relocated that spring. 15th floor to 23rd. Corner suite with windows that overlooked the building where his company rented space. 12 floors below me. I didn't plan it. Life just has a sense of humor sometimes. Some mornings, I'd see him in the plaza below. Coffee in hand. Phone pressed to his ear. Looking smaller from up there. Like a memory that lost resolution. His engagement happened again. Different woman. Faster timeline. The kind of speed that screams panic, not love. I didn't judge. Didn't care. His choices stopped being my concern the moment he made me one of his regrets. My business expanded. 4 positions. Speaking engagements. Opportunities in cities I'd never visited with people who'd never heard his name. I built a life so full his absence was just empty space I'd fill with better things. Do you ever think about him? My assistant asked one day, organizing files. Ooh, she looked up, smiled. Got it. That's the thing about irrelevance. It's not dramatic. It's just factual. Someone who used to matter becomes someone who doesn't. And soon he would kneel exactly where he once stood tall. When did you realize you'd outgrown someone completely? Share that moment. His knees hit the marble first. We're back where he started. Full circle. August on the ground, me standing, lobby full of witnesses. Please, he says again. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake. I see that now. I see you now. I let him finish. Let him empty himself of words that mean nothing because they're 3 years late and a lifetime short. He talks about regret, about how he didn't understand what he had, about how seeing my success made him realize I was always the one, always enough, always more than enough. I love you, he says. Final car played. I never stopped. The lobby is silent. Everyone watching, waiting for my response. waiting for me to speak, to forgive, to give him the closure he thinks he's earned by finally seeing my value. I look at him, really look, not with anger anymore, not even with satisfaction, just with the simple clarity of someone who's already moved on. You don't love me, I say quietly. You love that I don't need you. There's a difference. His face crumbles. That's not. You wanted freedom. I gave it to you. What you do with it isn't my problem anymore. I step around him, careful not to touch, careful to maintain the distance that took 3 years to build. Wait, he calls after me, voice breaking. Don't I at least deserve? I stop, turn halfway. Deserve. The word tastes bitter. You deserve exactly what you gave me. Nothing explained, nothing justified, just the sound of a door closing. I walk to the elevator, press the button, watch the numbers climb. Behind me, he's still on his knees, still talking, still trying to write an ending to a story he's no longer part of. Security helps him up eventually, escorts him out. The building returns to normal. People go back to their phones, their meetings, their lives. And I realize something's standing in that elevator, watching the floors tick higher. His voice is just noise now. Static, background sound that doesn't change anything. He left for freedom. I rose for peace. And now his voice is an echo in a story he no longer belongs to. The doors close. I rise higher. And somewhere below, August learns what irrelevance sounds like. It sounds like silence. This is just the beginning. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story. Share your thoughts in the comments and inspire others who need to hear that the ending isn't where someone leaves you. It's where you rise without them. What would you tell your past self about letting go? Drop it below. Your story matters. See you in the next one.